Today we're going to be talking about the first steps to heal our people pleasing. So I probably won't go into too much depth about what people pleasing actually is tonight. If you missed that video, if you want to chase that up, why would we want to heal our people pleasing? So the reason we want to heal our people pleasing is if it is no longer serving us anymore. So often we will fall into these patterns of behaviors that serve us for a certain purpose, but we get to a point in our lives where they just don't really mesh with who we are or what we want for ourselves anymore. And I guess that's when it's time to maybe change or heal or grow. So how do you know if your people pleasing might be not really serving you anymore? If you're exhausted all the time is a really good one. I know with me personally, I was in my 20s and I was having naps all the time. And I was just like, what is going on? I'm young, I shouldn't have to have naps all the time. And honestly, it was because I was giving all my energy away with my people pleasing and I was doing all these things that I didn't necessarily want to do. And I was exhausted. I was so tired all the time. So there's that exhaustion, there's that burnout that you really need to watch for. The other thing is resentment. So when you're a people pleaser, because you feel like you can't really say no, and sometimes it even feels like you're being forced into things because people ask and you kind of like, oh, it's yes or nothing right now. Otherwise, I'm worried about the conflict. You feel really resentful. You get really annoyed at people, and you might be able to hold this all in and be a bit quiet about it because obviously you don't want to start a fight about it. But often people will be left wondering, like, I asked her if she wanted to do that. She could have said no. Why is she kind of getting a bit narky with me now when she's suddenly kind of had to clean my kitchen for all of today? So resentment is a big one that kind of underpins why our people pleasing might not be serving us anymore. You're probably not someone who's an angry person, but resentment will make you into someone who's more angry and kind of like flips out over little things or lashes out when things get too much or when you've said yes over and over and over again. Another reason you'd want to heal yourself of your people pleasing is that it does kind of leave you open for emotional manipulation. So unfortunately, there are not great people in this world who will emotionally manipulate you. They sometimes can have a real good read on people and they might be able to tell you're a people pleaser. And because of this, they know the right things to say in order to get you to act in a way they would like you to act. So it might be like, oh, can you come over and paint my wall for me? You know, I'm really struggling with it. I've had to do the whole house. And you're like, oh, I'm not really the best painter, but you haven't said yes, you haven't said no. And then they're like, oh, come on, if you're a good friend, you would do it. And you're like, oh, I want to be a good person. I want to be a good friend. And I'm afraid that if I say no, this person won't consider me as such anymore. And therefore we go and do it. So that's an emotional manipulation because they're kind of saying to you, if you don't go and paint my walls this afternoon or on Saturday, I'm not going to consider you a good friend anymore. And I'm going to hold that against you. And the people pleaser in us is like, no, we can't have that. We have to be well liked. We have to be put together and we have to be helping people. And we can't sit with that uncomfortability of saying no. So we tend to get emotionally manipulated by others sometimes, even without meaning to. It could be as simple as painting a wall, or it could be kind of getting back in a relationship with someone when you're not really interested, but that person's really pushy about it. So that can be a really good reason to let go of people pleasing and decide it's no longer serving you anymore. You can't really speak your truth when you're a people pleaser. You're so kind of concerned about everyone else and you're looking out for everyone else's needs that obviously your opinions and your needs kind of take a back seat and they come last. And it's not really something we're really focused on. And unfortunately, this means you don't ever really speak your truth as a person. You don't get to be that genuine version of yourself that I'm sure people would love because you're so worried about what the image you're portraying and what other people are thinking and to kind of manage the conflict in that way, in that situation. And finally, there's a lot of anxiety around people pleasing. There's the anxiety of, oh my God, if I say no, what are they going to do? Are they going to get mad? I better just say yes. There's the anxiety of, oh, now I've said yes and I really didn't want to paint this wall this weekend. You know, I wanted to babysit my grandkids or do something way more fulfilling than painting. No offense to painting lovers out there, but painting walls is just boring, but painting actual canvases is way better, obviously. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, so we also get a bit of anxiety around, oh, I've said yes, now I'm kind of locked in. And we almost feel like we can't really trust ourselves in order to say no and put our own needs first. So that brings a lot of anxiety that, oh, I hope this person doesn't ask me something uncomfortable because I don't know how I'm going to go with it. And I guess those are just a few reasons. I'm sure there's more reasons of why your people pleasing might not be serving you and why it might be more harmful than good in your life. And so now let's get into the how to heal. So I've got a few little tips and pointers. So this will be a journey. It will be a bit of a process. We don't always let go of our patterns overnight because they are ingrained. And I know for me, sometimes I still fall back into old patterns and I have to just like rein myself in and be like, hang on a minute, that's one of my tells. I did it again, and just kind of pull myself back. But here's your starting point so that you can start to take a step back from your people pleasing. So number one, you need to know that people pleasing is a role. It is not your identity. It's not who you are unless you let it be. It's a role that you would have learned in childhood to manage conflict and drama. So if your parental figure said something like, you better clean your room or else, there's that part of you as a kid that's like, or else what? And you just have that innate fear in you. And it's like, oh, I better go do it. Otherwise I'm going to be in trouble, you know? And it's that sense of fear. So this is a role that's kind of been projected onto you as a child that, oh, I should go do that because that means I'm a good child and I'm worthy of love. And if we don't have love as a child, we could get rejected or our family of origin could leave us. And that's devastating for a child. Luckily, now we're adults and still can be quite upsetting when people leave, but where we can reparent ourselves and we can do things for ourselves now. So it is a role. So I know a lot of people question me on, yeah, but I'm just a helpful person. Like, that's what my people pleasing is. It's nothing more than that. And I can understand where you're coming from. Being helpful is not a bad thing. And you should have no shame or fear around saying anything about that. And I don't want to quash that out of you in any way, shape, or form. The difference between being helpful and calling yourself a helpful person and people pleasing is that when you're a helpful person who has boundaries, you can say, hey, oh, I'm not really feeling painting this weekend. I've kind of got a date with my grandson. I'm taking him for frappuccinos or something, I don't know. But maybe next weekend, because, you know, that works for me. I'm a bit more free next weekend. So you've still been able to be helpful, but you've put your own boundary in place around it that it doesn't work for me at this point, but if you're willing to wait for me, I can potentially do it down the track. And the people pleaser would feel that whole conundrum of, do I need to cancel my plans or should I just wipe my whole weekend free because this person might get annoyed if I say maybe next weekend. So that's the difference. There's that conviction that they have to do it. They have to help. It's almost like if they don't do it, like there's an or else there. Whereas the person who's just a natural helper but has boundaries is okay with saying no, not right now, or no, completely and utterly. So that's the difference between the two. And when you've been told that the way to receive love and affection and connection from other people is to people please, of course you're going to continue that role ongoing. But because it is just a role, it's just another hat that you can put on or take off. So you can take a step back from your people pleasing and still be a good person. I want you to know that. Next thing is find your why. So why is it important to you to let go of people pleasing? If it is. I'm never going to force you to do anything you don't want to do. I'm not about that life. So if you're sitting here going, I don't know if I am ready to let go of my people pleasing, that is 100% okay. And you know what? Maybe it's not the right time, or maybe you were just meant to watch this video to kind of get an idea of people pleasing. Maybe that's the whole reason you were drawn to it. That's all good. But if you are ready to let go of your people pleasing, you want to have a really strong why behind why you're going to do it. Like with anything, if you have a strong why, the how falls into place a lot easier. So it might be one of those things we spoke about before of what's no longer serving you. So maybe it is you've been emotionally manipulated in the past and you just don't want that to happen anymore. Or maybe it is that you're just ready to be able to say no when you are feeling really exhausted. So hold on to your why. And I want you to write down, if you've got a pen and paper and ready, I, so-and-so, so I, Kiara, officially let go of the role of people pleasing because it's no longer serving me to be spending my energy in a million different places when I could just be focused on what I really love and what I'm really passionate about. So obviously fill the blanks in there yourself. So I blank am ready to resign from the role of people pleasing because blank. And that because is usually your why. And then I want you to write that out like you can just scribble it down now, but if you want to write it really pretty and put it up on your wall somewhere, put it up on a mirror somewhere, because you're going to want to see that constantly and have that going into your subconscious. And you're going to want to have to continue reiterating that as an affirmation almost. Number 3 is test the waters. So you don't have to say no to something huge. It can just be a real little thing. Or like, I don't know, just doing the dishes or something. Or even if you don't feel comfortable saying no to someone about something you're not willing to really do, just say maybe not right now. Like the person who had the boundaries in the last example. Hey, yeah, you've asked me to paint your walls this weekend. I'm not really feeling it. I'm really busy this weekend. I've got a lot of things I need to do. But how about next weekend? It's not a no, but it is putting your needs first. And that's a step forward. That's what we want to be working towards. So just test the water. Test it with someone who loves you unconditionally, who will support you with this. Because sometimes we do test the waters and we put our people-pleasing boundaries up and we go, hey, not today, I'm really exhausted. And sometimes we get a not so great response. And maybe that's just because the person's so used to you always saying yes to everything that they're kind of taken aback a little bit by you not saying yes to everything. And again, that kind of feeds back into that emotional manipulation stuff. But then other times I've had the complete opposite happen where I've expected it to kind of blow up. And I've said to a friend, hey, look, I'm feeling a bit sick tonight. Don't want to come out for your birthday. I'm really sorry. I hope that's okay. Expected it to blow up. Sat there in the uncomfortability of sending that text message and waiting for a reply. And then they reply back and they go, oh, yeah, look after yourself. Don't worry about it. It's fine. There'll be other birthdays. I just need, just as long as you're okay. And I was like, wow, that person's a lovely person. And I'm really reflecting on my people pleasing right now because my people pleaser told me I had to go to that birthday. Otherwise I was a bad person. And here I am, not a bad person at all. And that was all the guilt and the fear. So that fear from childhood will come back up. So just test the waters, tread lightly, and know that it's okay to sometimes take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, okay? This also proves to you that you can do it, that you're capable of it, and that you've done it once, you can do it again. And it just builds that muscle, it builds that strength in you. And that's what we want, ladies. We want that empowerment. Number 4 is learn to reparent yourself. Because we learnt this role when we were children, often we have that fear attached to it and we have that shame attached to it. And our caregiver maybe wouldn't give us that if we did say no. So being older now, you are an adult and you can give yourself that love if you need it. So if you're feeling like it's not okay to say no to painting on the weekend because you don't want to upset that person, and even if that person does get upset, you have the choice to sit there and say to yourself, it's okay. I'm okay. I'm allowed to say no sometimes. And I love myself unconditionally. And I don't allow that shame to kind of permeate into my world. And I'd encourage you to do a few meditations on this as well. Inner child meditations are so powerful. Being able to sit there with your inner child, and if they're upset, just comfort them. Because that's what they were looking for. That's what they needed when they were kids, but maybe they didn't get. And maybe now's the time for you to do that for yourself. So they're my 4 tips. So I just want to leave you with this. So we want to be able to get to a point with our pleasing or with our helping that you get to choose whether you decide to help or not. So yes, you might be asked to do something you don't want to do, and you get to choose. Hey, do I feel like doing that? No, not really. And that's okay. And you just say that, and it is what it is. It's that part of us that feels like we have to do it, we have to do it, we have to do it, otherwise we're not a good person. That's the part of us we want to let go of. And we want to just move towards, hey, I'm in a good headspace tonight. I'm feeling really great. I've got great energy levels. All's going well. Of course I can do that extra chore, even though it's not my turn tonight. Or of course I can help out that friend who's called me up crying, because I'm in that place where I'm in the zone. I'm good. But you're not normally in that zone when you are a people pleaser because you're so exhausted from everything else anyway. And there will be nights where you just are so exhausted and you just want a night of peace and a night of rest, and that's okay. You're allowed to say no, but you pick and choose when you help, and it's all in your control as opposed to feeling forced or feeling like you have to, otherwise there'll be consequences. So that's what we're working towards. That might be your why. So that's how we can heal our people pleasing tonight. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to message it at the end of the chat and I'll reply. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, everyone. All the best with your healing.